She didn't become distant overnight. At first, everything felt effortless. Her energy was warm, her attention genuine, and her presence consistent. Conversations flowed naturally, and there was no need to question where you stood. Everything about her behavior communicated clarity and comfort. Then, without any dramatic shift, something changed. Her replies became shorter, pauses grew longer. The warmth that once felt effortless now seemed measured, controlled. And suddenly, you found yourself rereading messages, analyzing tone, and wondering what had shifted. Most men make the same mistake at this stage. They assume something went wrong, that her interest faded, or worse, that they made a mistake they can't identify. But that assumption misses the deeper truth. Her subtle pullback is rarely random. It's not a punishment, a test, or a sign that she no longer cares. Instead, it's a reflection of something more complex, an instinctive psychological process that reveals how she perceives you under uncertainty. When her energy changes, she's creating space, not to push you away, but to observe how you respond when clarity disappears. Understanding this shift is crucial, because what most men see as rejection is actually a window into her perception of your emotional stability, your confidence, and the way you navigate tension. The question is no longer, what did she do? It's, how do you respond when things aren't perfectly certain? The first signs of distance are rarely dramatic. They arrive subtly, almost imperceptibly. At first, her messages are still warm, but you notice them becoming slightly shorter. The pauses between replies grow longer, and the enthusiasm that once seemed effortless now feels measured. These shifts are easy to overlook at first, but over time, they become noticeable. Many men immediately assume they've done something wrong. They replay conversations, analyze tone, and question every interaction. Did I say something wrong? Or has she lost interest? Become constant thoughts. But what they fail to realize is that these behaviors are not necessarily signs of lost attraction. Instead, they are subtle indicators of emotional recalibration. She's not withdrawing because she doesn't care. She's creating space to observe, to measure how you respond when things are no longer predictable. This early stage is critical. The way you perceive and respond to these subtle signals lays the foundation for the dynamic that follows. Overreacting, chasing, over-explaining, or seeking reassurance communicates dependence. Remaining unaware communicates complacency. The ideal response isn't trying to restore things to how they were, but maintaining your presence, your calm, and your confidence, even as her energy shifts. Recognizing these early signs allows you to shift perspective. Instead of asking what's wrong with her, the more important question becomes, how do I maintain clarity, stability, and presence when her behavior is inconsistent? This shift in focus is the first step toward mastering the psychology behind her subtle pullback. When a woman begins to act distant, it is rarely random, manipulative, or a punishment. What often feels confusing is actually deeply intentional on a subconscious level. She's not trying to push you away. She's observing how you respond when certainty disappears, when emotional comfort is no longer guaranteed. Think about it. When interactions feel easy, you operate on autopilot. Your attention is consistent, your confidence appears natural, and your mindset remains steady without effort. But subtle uncertainty exposes more than just behavior. It reveals character, emotional resilience, and stability. The pauses, the measured warmth, the occasional coldness are all designed to create a space in which your true self can be observed. This is a stage many men misunderstand. They focus on the surface, her words, her replies, her behavior, rather than the underlying purpose, your response. Your emotional clarity, composure, and ability to maintain your internal state under subtle pressure are what she is evaluating. Men often react unconsciously, either chasing attention, overanalyzing every message, or withdrawing entirely. Each reaction communicates more than words ever could. It signals whether your emotional state depends on her behavior or originates from within yourself. Understanding the psychology behind this distance reframes the experience. Her pullback is not a rejection. It is a lens through which she observes who you are under emotional fluctuation. The more you maintain presence, stability, and self-assurance, the more it communicates strength, reliability, and attraction. In essence, her subtle distance is not about you losing her attention. It is about revealing your emotional structure. And the way you respond in these early moments sets the tone for the dynamic that will follow. When her behavior cools down, it is not about manipulation or games. It is an emotional test, subtle and unspoken. Every pause, every short reply, and every fluctuation in warmth is a way for her to observe your stability, composure, and confidence under uncertainty. She wants to see how you navigate emotional ambiguity when things are no longer predictable. Many men fail this test without realizing it. Some respond by overcompensating, sending more messages, seeking reassurance, or trying harder to restore the connection. Others withdraw, assuming the relationship is slipping away. A few become anxious, overthinking every word, every pause, and every tone. These reactions, though unconscious, reveal dependence on her energy rather than grounding in your own. The subtle genius of this test lies in its ability to expose truth. Attraction is not built solely on shared moments of connection. It is reinforced in moments of tension. Her distance creates an environment where your emotional consistency is visible. How do you respond when clarity is absent? Do you chase, react, or remain steady? The ideal approach is not to control her behavior, but to maintain control over your own. Stability, not effort, becomes the measure of attraction. When you remain grounded and present, she senses it instinctively. She perceives that your emotional state is self-contained, not dependent on her approval, attention, or reactions. Understanding this concept transforms the dynamic. What appears to be coldness or unpredictability is actually a mirror reflecting your emotional maturity. By passing this subtle test, you demonstrate qualities that words alone cannot communicate: confidence, resilience, and the magnetic presence that attracts without effort. Most men misread subtle distance as disinterest or rejection. They interpret brief pauses, shorter messages, or moments of coldness as signs that something has gone wrong. The immediate response is often to try harder, sending more messages, over-explaining themselves, or seeking constant reassurance. While well-intentioned, these behaviors communicate dependence rather than confidence. Another common mistake is overanalyzing her behavior. Men replay conversations in their heads, scrutinize every tone, and search for hidden meanings. This creates unnecessary anxiety and distracts from what truly matters: how they respond emotionally to her shifts. When focus shifts entirely onto her actions instead of maintaining internal clarity, the balance of the dynamic begins to collapse. A third misstep is withdrawing entirely, assuming the connection is lost. Pulling away may seem safe, but it signals detachment rather than emotional strength. It communicates uncertainty and creates distance that may not have existed otherwise. The underlying principle is clear: her behavior is not the problem. The problem arises when your emotional state depends on her reactions. Attempts to fix her inconsistency only destabilize your own presence. The key is to observe rather than react, to maintain steady energy regardless of her fluctuations. Emotional stability, presence, and confidence are far more attractive than effort-driven attention. By understanding this distinction, men can navigate early signs of distance without panic, anxiety, or overcompensation, creating a stronger foundation for connection and attraction. Attraction is not built on predictability alone. It thrives on emotional contrast. When warmth, attention, and closeness are constant, they can lose impact over time. The human mind responds to variation. Moments of distance followed by reconnection create tension, anticipation, and engagement. This subtle rhythm of push and pull is not manipulation. It is an instinctive way to maintain emotional balance and reveal deeper truths about character. When she steps back slightly, her behavior is creating space for both of you to reveal authenticity. You are no longer operating in a comfort zone where everything feels effortless and automatic. Your responses, whether grounded or reactive, become visible reflections of your emotional maturity, stability, and self-confidence. This is why subtle distance can feel unsettling. It exposes the real you under conditions of uncertainty. Many men misinterpret this emotional contrast as mixed signals or inconsistency. They attempt to restore constant attention, chase clarity, or overinvest during brief moments of warmth, yet doing so often undermines attraction. The truth is that emotional contrast works precisely because it highlights independence. Your composure and steadiness become far more noticeable when juxtaposed against uncertainty. By embracing this rhythm, you shift from reactive to proactive awareness. Instead of trying to control her behavior, you maintain your own center. You recognize that her pullback is not a rejection, but an opportunity to demonstrate emotional strength. The subtle interplay of closeness and distance naturally amplifies attraction, creating a dynamic that feels engaging, authentic, and magnetic, without effortful persuasion or overcompensation. Understanding emotional contrast transforms how you perceive her distance. It's no longer a problem to fix, but a mechanism that reveals both her feelings and your true emotional presence. Emotional presence is the cornerstone of attraction. It is not about controlling her behavior, forcing connection, or overcompensating for distance. It is about remaining grounded, composed, and self-assured, regardless of how her energy shifts. Presence communicates confidence and stability in ways that words alone cannot. When a woman creates subtle distance, she is testing your ability to maintain this presence. How do you respond when warmth fades or attention becomes inconsistent? Do you chase, overanalyze, or seek reassurance? Or do you remain steady, maintaining your emotional center without allowing her behavior to dictate your state? Your reaction reveals far more than any conversation could. Maintaining presence does not mean indifference. It does not mean withdrawing or becoming cold. Rather, it is about creating clarity within yourself. Your emotional state originates from your own internal balance, not from her reactions, messages, or engagement. By holding this center, you communicate stability and reliability, qualities that naturally draw people closer. Consistency in emotional presence is more than behaving predictably. It is about showing that you exist independently of external shifts. It allows her to feel safe in your presence while still experiencing the subtle tension that keeps attraction alive. She begins to notice that your energy is self-contained, and as a result, the dynamic naturally stabilizes. By focusing on your own clarity and balance, you no longer react impulsively to distance or brief warmth. You observe, respond consciously, and hold space for the connection to evolve naturally. Emotional presence transforms uncertainty from a source of stress into an opportunity to deepen attraction, strengthen trust, and reveal your authentic self. Once you understand the psychology of subtle distance and maintain your emotional presence, the next step is learning how to reset the dynamic. Resetting does not involve chasing her attention, over-explaining, or forcing clarity. It is about reclaiming your own stability and allowing the relationship to recalibrate naturally. When a woman steps back, she is observing how you handle uncertainty. Your reactions reveal whether your confidence and emotional state are dependent on her behavior or grounded within yourself. Many men respond by leaning in harder, seeking reassurance, or overcompensating. While these efforts feel productive, they unintentionally communicate dependence and create imbalance. The key to resetting the dynamic is the opposite. Maintain steadiness, focus on your own energy, and allow her distance to exist without overreaction. Resetting is about creating clarity internally rather than externally. By holding your center, you no longer chase her fluctuations. Instead, you let them reveal who you are. Her moments of warmth, brief attention, or playful engagement become checkpoints rather than triggers. You respond with consistent composure, demonstrating emotional maturity and reliability. When your energy is independent of her behavior, the tension that once caused confusion transforms into attraction. She no longer feels the need to test your reactions because your stability communicates trustworthiness and strength. The dynamic shifts naturally. She becomes more open, curious, and engaged, not because you forced it, but because your presence invites it. Ultimately, Resetting the dynamic is not about controlling her, correcting behavior, or regaining lost attention. It is about reclaiming your emotional authority, maintaining clarity, and allowing the relationship to evolve on a foundation of mutual respect, trust, and authentic attraction. Understanding the psychology behind her subtle pullback is powerful, but translating that understanding into action is what truly changes the dynamic. Responding effectively requires a balance of self-awareness, composure, and patience. 1. Observe without overreacting. The first step is to notice her changes in behavior without assigning negative meaning. Shorter replies or temporary coldness are not automatic signs of disinterest. Instead, they are signals that invite you to assess your emotional state rather than hers. 2. Maintain your emotional center. Focus on your own energy and mindset. Ground yourself in stability, confidence, and self-assurance. Your emotional state should not fluctuate based on her attention, tone, or engagement. When she senses that your presence is independent, she naturally relaxes and becomes more receptive. 3. Avoid chasing or over-explaining. Resist the urge to fill silence with excessive messages, apologies, or clarifications. These behaviors communicate dependence and disrupt the emotional balance. Instead, let space exist naturally, allowing both of you to recalibrate. 4. Embrace emotional contrast. Recognize that attraction is strengthened through subtle tension. Her moments of distance followed by warmth create an emotional rhythm. Responding with steadiness and presence during these fluctuations enhances attraction rather than diminishing it. 5. Lead with presence, not effort. Your actions should communicate calm, reliability, and emotional maturity. Simple gestures, a confident tone, consistent behavior, and thoughtful engagement carry more weight than overt efforts to regain attention. By applying these practical steps, you shift from reactive to proactive. You no longer try to control her behavior. Instead, you control your response. This approach transforms her distance from a source of anxiety into an opportunity to demonstrate emotional strength, deepen attraction, and build a connection that is resilient, authentic, and magnetic. Emotional stability is not a short-term tactic. It is a long-term strategy that shapes the foundation of attraction and trust. When you consistently maintain your composure and presence, even amid subtle distance or inconsistency, you communicate reliability and maturity. These qualities create a sense of security without removing the tension that fuels attraction. Over time, stability becomes the defining factor in how she perceives you. She no longer feels the need to test your reactions or create artificial distance to gauge your character. Your consistent presence transforms her uncertainty into curiosity and engagement. She begins to observe that your emotional state is independent of external fluctuations, and this independence naturally enhances her respect, interest, and attraction. Moreover, long-term stability fosters deeper emotional connection. When both parties feel secure, interactions become more authentic and meaningful. Your calm presence allows her to express herself without fear of judgment or unpredictability, and in turn, you are free to act from authenticity rather than reaction. The subtle pull and push rhythm no longer triggers anxiety because your confidence remains steady, creating space for genuine intimacy to develop. Another crucial aspect is influence without control. Emotional stability allows you to guide the dynamic through your own energy rather than through efforts, persuasion, or overcompensation. This presence communicates strength, self-assurance, and independence, all qualities that are magnetic on a psychological level. Ultimately, the long-term impact of maintaining stability is profound. Attraction, trust, and emotional intimacy deepen naturally, and the relationship evolves on a foundation of authenticity and mutual respect. Stability becomes not just a tool to navigate subtle distance, but a defining characteristic of your presence and the connection itself.